As Andrew mentioned in the introduction, you'd be forgiven for thinking that CSR, or corporate social responsibility, was the real buzzword at the moment, was the flavour of the month. And certainly if the press is anything to go by in Australia, not a day goes by without an article about CSR in the media. And certainly last week I was in the UK for a few days and found pretty much the same phenomenon in the press there. There's a lot of coverage about CSR. It was interesting while I was there, I saw this supplement in the Sunday Times about the top 100 companies that count, a survey of companies on their corporate social responsibility. And of the 100 companies listed in there, tourism, we talk about the fastest growing, biggest industry in the world, barely got a mention. 2 or 3 transport companies, 1 hotel and leisure business. Other than that, next to no mention of tourism. But I certainly believe that CSR is absolutely critical to the success of tourism. And in this presentation, I'd like to just give you a few practical ways that tourism companies can incorporate corporate social and environmental responsibility practices into their business. And I'll draw from a few examples from Intrepid Travel, who I work for. Just a little bit about Intrepid. Intrepid's been operating small group adventure trips since 1989. We started in Thailand and over the next 12 years expanded through Asia. And we've subsequently gone on to operate now in 98 countries. So now into Australasia and the Pacific, the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and to Latin America. So the company's grown fairly rapidly. And the current brochures, which I've just got some examples down there, we've got 471 different trips this year from between 6 and 60 days in length. We've got 7 different styles of trips, including our original style, which includes lots of opportunity for people to get out and mix with local people, travelling using predominantly locally owned and operated accommodation and transport. Family active trips. The company was founded by 2 gentlemen, Darryl Wade and Jeff Manchester. And the great thing for me as an employee is that the company is still very much driven by them as the founders and current directors of the business. And in my position of responsible travel manager, I report directly to Darryl Wade, the CEO. And this financial year we're expecting 50,000 travellers. So it's a bit of an idea about Intrepid, the company. So we get to go to some pretty extraordinary places and get to meet wonderful people all around the globe. So just to get us all on a bit of a sort of level, same page of what CSR is about, I've drawn upon this definition from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, an often quoted definition of CSR. The corporate social responsibility is the continuing commitment by business to contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce and their families, as well as of the community and society at large. And also, here's another definition too, from a very famous Norwegian, Gro Harlem Brundtland, former Prime Minister of Norway, who certainly championed the cause of sustainable development. That when we refer to sustainability, we're talking about meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. From a tour operator's or travel operator's perspective, it's travelling in a way that respects and benefits the local people, their culture and the environment, and will enable our children to visit these places and find them just as special as we did. And we also, with CSR, often hear a lot about triple bottom line reporting. So basically people plus the planet can make profit, or social, environment and economic, measuring the social, environmental and economic outcomes. So the business case for CSR is certainly recognising that business and society are interdependent. We can't do without each other. It's absolutely critical to be operating legally, respecting and obeying the laws of the countries that you operate in, obviously paying your taxes, looking after your employees' health and safety. One of the things that Intrepid's been able to do in recent years is to actually set up separate operating companies in many of the regions that we're operating in. 4 years ago, we started with setting up an operating business in Indochina that could enable us to more effectively employ local people, pay taxes locally, and follow the local employment laws, and to be able to employ as many local people to participate in our business as possible. And we've been able to replicate that model through into Thailand, in Cambodia, in India, soon into China, and also in the last 12 months in Latin America. We've set up Intrepid Andes and in Kenya. Corporate social responsibility will enable some brand differentiation. Your RT, as the jargon we commonly use, or responsible travel or sustainable tourism practices, will help your company image and help to build staff and customer loyalty. In regards to human resources, it certainly will help you to attract the right sort of employees and help staff retention. We've been very fortunate at Intrepid that certainly people want to work for Intrepid because of our CSR practices, and our staff do tend to stay a long time. I've been with the company for 11 years, and many of my colleagues have been there for also comparable lengths of time. And good CSR will help you to manage risk. It will certainly help protect your company reputation. When times are tough, when times get tough, people will see through your practices. So looking at the three major aspects of CSR, the people, the planet and the profit. Looking at people first, it's doing the right thing by your stakeholders, by your employees, by your service providers, by your customers, and most importantly by your hosts. Look at each of those groups of people. Your employees, it's providing fair conditions for them, making sure that their salaries are equitable and fair for the region where they're working. It's encouraging lots of opportunities for personal growth of employees, for example, study leave, and opportunities that are relevant to a particular employee's personal situation, if they have a family. Offering lots of training opportunities. I can't emphasise training enough. I think we've all probably experienced corporate social responsibility practices, like with hotels, where they tell you to hang up the towels in the bathroom and they won't get washed. But because of lack of training of the staff, you hang them up, but they change them anyway. Training is critical. Offering flexible hours and other conditions to employees. Treating your staff with respect and integrity and honesty, and measuring them and their performance that they practice those values. Offering them rewards and incentives to do well and to follow your company values. And offering optimum health and safety measures. Your service providers or your supply chain are absolutely critical to your success. At Intrepid, we call them our local friends. The friends that have helped to make Intrepid a success right from when we first started in Thailand, beginning in 1989. We want to spread the financial benefits amongst the local people and operators as much as possible, and not have all the profits going back to the head office back in the West. We want to support and encourage fair employment practices, and certainly be very aware of local exploitive practices, particularly in many developing countries, and obviously do what you can to avoid exploitive practices. We provide employment and leadership opportunities for local people and nurture their growth. I actually just point out the gentleman on the right in that photo is a guide in northern Thailand that has the nickname Superman, and he's actually been guiding with Intrepid since our first year of operations, and still is providing fantastic service to our passengers. And we use local operators that adhere to our responsible travel philosophies and provide the best possible service to our travellers and staff. And it's really important for us that we work really closely with those local operators and do training with them, but also learn from them. They've got much to teach us, particularly about their own culture and society. New customers. Make a point of saying that they're not always right, they're always respected. We certainly must be listening to their feedback. But on the not always right point that I mentioned there, we particularly find operating in Asia where saving face is a common value, that particularly with our local leaders, there's a tendency to want to not ever go against what a customer might say. And we've had to strike that fine balance and letting them know that if a customer is not perhaps behaving appropriately or following suitable local cultural, respecting the culture appropriately, that maybe they need to be pointing out more appropriate behaviour. We want to educate our travellers about how and why we choose to travel this way. We want to educate about local customs and culture, which goes without saying. And we certainly recognise, as Intrepids in the cheaper end of the market, that we do get a lot of travellers that might just walk into a travel agency and say, I'd like to go to China for 2 weeks, what's your cheapest deal? And may end up with an Intrepid trip. We're not necessarily always the cheapest, but we're in that lower end of the market. We obviously want to provide safe trips to our travellers and staff. It's obviously good for business if you can get people home in one piece and healthy. We want to provide fun, enjoyable trips to our travellers. We certainly believe that travellers will be the best ambassadors for a country if they've had a really positive experience. If they go away and say, or they go home and say, oh, it was filthy and the people were rude and they ripped you off and give negative feedback like that, then obviously they're not good ambassadors for the country. And we want to give our travellers the best possible value, give them what they paid for, and hopefully more. The hosts and the wider community, obviously they're the most critical factor in our success. We certainly want to limit the negative impacts to daily lifestyles of local people not directly involved with our groups, particularly in remote communities. We don't have many rules, but we do say that we actively ban staff or passenger participation in or endorsement of commercial sexual activities, prostitution, or illegal drug use on Intrepid trips. And to us, it's totally a matter of integrity and respect for local people that we have these rules and enforce them. And also, very importantly, we want to work to prevent the exploitation of children in tourism through child labour practices, and also, sadly, through the dreadful, insidious problem of child sexual exploitation through tourism, which sadly is very rampant, particularly in many poor countries. We believe partnerships are critical to working effectively in this area. We've been partnering with ECPAT, some of you will be familiar with, End Child Prostitution, Pornography and Trafficking, which are represented in about 35 countries around the world, and the fantastic work that they do to prevent child sexual exploitation through tourism. And I'd really encourage every tourism business to get involved in supporting ECPAT's work. The logo there we have for Childwise. ECPAT is known as Childwise in Australia. We want to provide support to organisations and local communities through Intrepid's Travellers Philanthropy Network, Travellers Philanthropy Initiative. We established the Intrepid Foundation in 2002. And basically, Intrepid, since we commenced operations in 1989, Jeff and Daryl, the directors, made a commitment to giving back 10% of the company's after-tax profit back into the communities that we visit through various charitable projects. And we decided to formalise that support through establishing the Intrepid Foundation in 2002. And the foundation supports a range of activities, including healthcare, education, human rights, child welfare, sustainable development, environmental and wildlife protection. Excuse me. The major promotional point we make to our travellers is that Intrepid Travel will match all public donations dollar for dollar, and Intrepid Travel pays all the administration costs. But the Intrepid Foundation is a separate entity to Intrepid Travel. Technically, if Intrepid Travel fell over bankrupt tomorrow, the Intrepid Foundation could continue. And we believe it's really critical to our transparency as a business to operate our charitable efforts separately. The successes thus far, in the last 3 years, we've raised over $812,000 to benefit over 30 beneficiary projects. A couple of major projects we had was after the tsunami. We had Nation Tsunami Appeal, which raised over $225,000. And then very sadly, just short of 2 years ago in the London bombings, one of our former staff members, Mike Matsushita, was killed on one of the trains. And his family, in conjunction with Intrepid, we decided to set up a memorial fund, the Indochina Children's Fund for Mike, and we raised $60,000 for 5 different children's projects in Vietnam and Cambodia, where Mike was a tour leader. We offer 2 ways to our travellers to support our foundation projects. We've got the Intrepid Community Project Fund, where donations go to support the grassroots work of non-government organisations identified as making a valuable contribution to the local community. It includes many small organisations or projects that might be visited during the Intrepid trip. We've currently got about 23 community projects through about 15 countries. We hope to expand to about 30 by the end of this year. And eventually we hope we've got projects in many of the 98 countries that we're operating in. And we also have, we call the Intrepid Perpetual Support Fund, where donations are divided each year and half is retained in the account in perpetuity to conserve and grow capital for the future. And hopefully the interest in the future will support projects. That fund currently holds about $360,000. And half goes into an annual grants pool to 10 well-respected organisations that Intrepid's had a long relationship with. So these are many international non-government organisations that are represented throughout countries that we operate in. And looking at our environmental impact, our environmental policies, the planet. We aim to use as much locally owned infrastructure for accommodation and transport where we possibly can, and to try and keep the money local, to give our travellers a really local experience, where they're not just in a hotel that could be staying anywhere around the world. And those couple of photos there of a wonderful little eco resort on an island called Arturo Island in East Timor. Fantastic community project. We want to limit the physical impact of all our trips and all destination communities, particularly in sensitive natural and cultural environments, which goes without saying. And we actively discourage the participation of travellers in activities which exploit animals, wild or domestic. And we go on the expertise of several organisations to help us in doing this, in particular WISPA, the World Society for Protection of Animals, and Traffic, who work to prevent the trade in endangered species. On climate change, it's a great hot topic, which is a whole separate forum on this afternoon. Just touch on this fairly briefly. We have an email newsletter called Intrepid Express that goes out to about 400,000 subscribers every week. And we put out to our subscribers late last year a survey wanting to find out their interest and knowledge about climate change and to what extent they would support or believe Intrepid should get behind the issues. And of 1,743 respondents, which I'd have to say was perhaps some of the converted who responded to be interested to respond, but still found it very encouraging that the 97% believe that it's somewhat very important that climate change be part of Intrepid's responsible travel commitments. That 70% told us that they've got a good to very good understanding of the issues related to climate change, and 50% were familiar with the process of carbon offsetting. And then 80% of the respondents said that they'd be happy to pay 4% extra on their airfare to offset the carbon emissions. And a significant 87% said they'd be willing to pay US $1 a day to offset the land component of their trip. So we thought this feedback was very encouraging. And so shortly afterwards we made the bold decision to announcing the goal of becoming a carbon neutral company by the end of 2008, within 3 years. We don't know if we'll get there, but that's certainly what we're aiming to do at this stage.